Bills Mafia, welcome to Buffalo Late Night. Tonight, we're going to talk about the NFL draft. We're going to do a live mock draft, and we're going to be talking about all those roster moves that happened yesterday. Let's get it. Bills Mafia, what is going on? Welcome to Buffalo Late Night. I am really glad you guys are here tonight. I needed somebody to talk to. That sounds so sad. I am ready to break it all down with you guys. Man, what a last 24 hours. I know for myself, I was driving yesterday home, went to go pick up my son from his daycare, and did not expect the onslaught, just the downhill, just barrage of moves that happened yesterday. So we're going to be talking about all of that tonight and more. We're going to do a live mock draft together. I need all of you guys. So if you want to hop in the chat, I want to hear what you guys have to say, what you think. We're going to touch a little bit on that stadium stuff that happened in terms of, I'm not really concerned about the Buffaloes and how big they are, but talk about a little bit about that. We're obviously going to talk about all the roster moves that happened yesterday, kind of all the implications that might fall because of it, and we'll go from there. And then we'll also talk about the NFL draft and free agency. We are 1 week away. So again, I am super glad you guys are here tonight. My name is Thomas DeLoss. Glad you've chosen to hang. And if you're listening on Spotify, happy Friday to you. You can find our show free on all social media and streaming platforms, including Spotify and YouTube, or however you pod. And if you are on Twitter right now, what's going on, folks? Guys, I want to make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page, as well as that notification button. It will let you know anytime one of our shows is live. Also, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to the Cover One Pass. It's going to give you the best content, the best breakdown. Obviously, we are heading into the thick of it right now. Free agency, NFL draft. Follow along. We're going to have tons of stuff all this coming week up into the start of free agency. As well, we are also going to have a ton of stuff for the NFL draft. A bunch of us are going to be down in Detroit covering the draft live. We're going to have a live show providing you guys pick-by-pick analysis with some of the best and the brightest of Cover One. So make sure you guys subscribe to that. Also, make sure, guys, right now, subscribe to the Cover One Pass. We are doing a brand new, it's a drawing for prizes, Josh Allen signed jersey, PlayStation 5, tons of awesome stuff. So make sure you guys subscribe to the Cover One Pass and make sure you take care of that. Aside from all of that news, guys, I am ecstatic to tell you about one of our incredible sponsors. I'm going to start right off the top with that right now. Underdog Fantasy. Guys, Underdog Fantasy is fantastic. We're again partnering with the most dynamic game in fantasy football. I want to tell you the easiest way to get into some action with the NFL. Underdog Fantasy and their pick'em game. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite or least favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times what your money is in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out a pick'em entry. Get every pick right and take home some cold, hard cash. Use code COVER1 and get your first deposit up to $500 doubled by Underdog. So there we are. That is our sponsor. Now, guys, let's get right into it. Let's get into the thick of everything that happened yesterday. Obviously, you guys know, man, what an absolute crazy day it was for the Buffalo Bills yesterday and Brandon Beane. A litany of different moves that happened. It started off, and you obviously had the Ryan Bates trade. Ryan Bates traded to the Chicago Bears in exchange for a 2024 fifth-round pick 143. A really nice return for Brandon Beane. I liked Ryan Bates. I think Ryan Bates had great potential. A guy that came off the bench, could play any one of the 5 positions on the line. Seemed he was the heir apparent to Mitch Morse, which we later found was not, in fact, the case in both ways. But Ryan Bates was a guy that not only did the Bears like 2 years ago when they offer sheeted him, but the Bills liked him too because they matched. And then we decided to send him packing. So, I mean, I think that what that tells you is, one, they weren't willing to keep that money on the books. And two, I think Brandon Beane saw an opportunity to really try to bolster this draft. And I don't think we quite knew why, right? I don't think we knew why those 5th-round picks were that important. But now what we know is that 5th-round pick is incredibly important because, well, look at what just happened yesterday. So let's move into that, right? Yesterday was wild beyond measure. Wild. So obviously you saw Rasul Douglas's contract was renegotiated, say 2.5 against the cap. Great. I think everybody kind of assumed something, whether it was an extension, something with Rasul Douglas was going to happen. Then it was the kind of the gut punch of different moves that happened right afterwards. We lost all pro safety and team captain Jordan Poyer, which, last year we re-signed him to a 2-year, really it was a 1-year deal with a void year on the back for Jordan Poyer. And there was a lot of excitement having Poyer back. Poyer really signified and has signified the beginning of the change of the guard for the Buffalo Bills. 2017 when he came in here with Micah Hyde, with Tre'Davious White, it was a change. It was a brand new day for the Buffalo Bills. They were the 3 that locked down that defense. They were the group of guys that really, before Josh Allen kind of came into being Josh Allen, they were the ones that put us into a position to be successful. They were the ones that put us into a position to feel like we were okay, that we had continuity on the back end, that we had a defense that people didn't want to play. I mean, you talk to other fan bases and they were like, man, you got one of the best safety, if not the best safety tandem in Hyde and Poyer. And you held that. That was like your ace in the hole. That was like the thing you pulled out of your back pocket. You're like, I got you. That's what we had. And then Poyer was let go. And I think we fans, including myself, content creators, whomever, whatever, we all kind of knew the day was going to come because you saw the last couple of years, Poyer's body was breaking down. He definitely was not the same guy. He still was making impact splash plays. And I think everybody loved his tenacity and his fire, his leadership, his charisma, everything about him. He exuded Buffalo. But you could tell, kind of like, and I hate to use this analogy, but like your grandfather, right? You go up watching your grandfather and he's that big, strong guy. You climb on his back, you play with him in the yard. But as he gets older, you kind of see he can't take the wear and tear like he used to. And that's what was happening with Jordan Poyer. The nicks and the dings and the bumps and the bruises and the injuries were mounting, and they were becoming more and more prevalent. They were making him slow down to a point where you could visually see it on the field. And it's tough when you see that because, I'm 36 years old, and when the changing of the guard from the 90s teams, the Super Bowl era happened, it was tough. A lot of people didn't know how to stomach it, right? Like it was a change because Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, that whole group of guys, when they all left, it was like, now what? And so I think for a lot of older fans and then a lot of newer fans, and I think this is the tough part, right? Like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit. I'm trying to compartmentalize but articulate what my feelings are with this. I think it's tough for a lot of people in this because the financial side everybody gets. You save a lot of money, it's fantastic. There's a lot of good that comes out of this, right? Like we can get younger, you can bring in new pieces, you can attack free agency with a little bit more gusto. Like there is just this, I don't know, this feeling that there's more there now, right? Like, you have the opportunity to really prevail in different areas. You might be able to go after a Justin Simmons, right? But the other side of it, the human side, the element of being a Bills fan, the connection that a lot of fan bases don't necessarily understand about Buffalo sports is that you're that close to these guys. Training camp being in Rochester at St. John Fisher, right in my hometown, like right down the street. You're there. You're up close and personal with these guys. These guys are in the community. What Jordan Poyer did He was a recovering alcoholic, and what he did to help a lot of people. And with Poyer and Hyde's softball tournament or softball game he did every year, they're right there. They're ingrained in the community. So I think these moves, financially the fans understand. The other side is it's been really difficult. It's more palpable, right? It's tougher to kind of wrap your mind around. And it's not that I don't think people are tough enough to understand it, which, cheers, by the way. I think it's more so it's just sad to see them go. Jordan Poyer has been everything and anything you would ever want. And I will say this without a shadow of a doubt. Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, one, are the greatest Buffalo Bills safety tandem. So Mark Kelso, Henry Jones. I love Henry Jones. Mark Kelso and Henry Jones, when they were together, was when I was very, very young. So I can't speak to exactly that, but what I can tell you is, in my mind and what I know, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, best safety tandem in Bills history. Could it be up for debate? Sure. And I will never judge anybody for that. They absolutely should end up on the Bills Wall of Fame in the new stadium or however they are going to honor and recognize the players of the past. But Jordan Poyer, man, what a tough thing to lose. You did save a good amount of money with Jordan Poyer. You saved 5.72 against the cap with a $2 million dead cap hit. The other one that's really tough, well, there's a couple that was tough, but Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White, Sean McDermott's very first pick when he came into Buffalo, a guy that has really signified everything about this Bills team. The Trey White goalie academy. He really loved the Buffalo Sabres, played with all the fire and tenacity, a guy that, man, you finally had a lockdown, a guy that, man, you just knew they couldn't throw on. A dude that was just unbelievable on one side of the field. A player that the Bills knew, like, go ahead, throw it, Trey, see what happens. He was good. He was great. He was elite. He was top of the cake, man. He was so good. Man, losing that was tough. That really hit hard. And, I told my wife about it, and she's like, it stinks, but, man, he wasn't healthy. And that was the tough part for Tre'Davious White. ACL injury, came back, Achilles injury, went out again. It's tough. That age, I've told people before, I've torn both my ACLs and, one in each knee. And it's tough to come back from that, let alone an ACL and Achilles in consecutive years. It was tough for him to really get back to what he was. And the other part about it is it's a $6.2 million dead cap hit, but is a $10.2 million in cap space savings. That's a massive number for the Bills, especially where they're at. So that was a very, very tough one to stomach, to really kind of understand. I think Tre'Davious White's going to have his own, by the way, Justin. I think Tre'Davious White probably will have. Tre'Davious was Sean McDermott's very first draft pick and a guy that signified the beginning, truly. But aside from that, you also had Saran Neal, and Saran Neal had his moments where he did some stuff that wasn't, he wasn't always in the right place at the right time. But Saran Neal, man, guy was here from, for the last 6-7 years, just did everything that he was supposed to do. One of the best gunners in the NFL on special teams. Was an absolute stone cold killer on kickoffs and punts. Tough guy to lose. But again, $2.8 million in cap savings. That's another, those little numbers, they may not seem a lot, but they add up very, very quickly, especially for a team that needs all the space that they can get. On top of that, you had Mitch Morse. And I think one thing that I've heard from a lot of people, I think the sentiment amongst a lot of fans, including media personalities, everybody I've talked to, was the one that really struck them very odd, or not odd, but maybe more of a surprise, was Mitch Morse. Mitch Morse with this offensive line, which for the first time in a long time, all 5 offensive linemen played all 18 games this past season, and they were good. All 5. Continuity, consistency, health. They preach availability. Mitch Morse was finally healthy, no concussions. Having Josh Allen have his center for the last couple of years. What a coup for a guy like Josh Allen to not have to worry about that. That was a strange one. But again, $8.5 million savings. That's a big time number for the Buffalo Bills. They also, I think one that a lot of people kind of saw coming too, really, Nyheim Hines, Deontay Hardy. Between the two of them, Deontay Hardy, they saved for $4.3 million. Nyheim Hines, I think it was $3.5 million they saved. So in totality, they are just over the cap by $7.5 million after previously being over the cap by $41.2 million. That's the thing about this, that is, you realize these type of moves, they're really tough. They're really hard to understand. A lot of them are hard to stomach, but you're talking going from 41.2 to 7.5. And like I said, these are the type of moves that allow the Buffalo Bills the ability, the flexibility, just the I don't know, the peace of mind to know that they, one, can go into the season signing their draft picks, having that extra money if you need to make moves in season. But the other side is you can go into training or free agency next week and say, if you want to go after a guy, go after a guy. Now, there are a couple of moves that are going to be coming down the line. And one thing I do want to mention, I didn't mention, is Von Miller. Von Miller, man, he renegotiated his contract with a base value of $8.8 million. That's incredible for a guy that, Von Miller, a lot of people had a lot of things to say about Von Miller, but he went out and said, you know what? Somebody mentioned this, and I really kind of think it's possible this is exactly what happened. Von Miller went to Brandon Beane and said, Brandon Beane, you had my back when all that stuff came out, all the rumors and nonsense or whatever it was. And I'm not saying that. This is from his mouth, not mine. All the stuff that came out earlier about Von Miller and his girlfriend. And Brandon Beane had his back. So part of me thinks, did Von Miller go and say, hey, I got yours. Go ahead, drop my number down, and I'll work to get that money back. I'll show it to you on the field and get that money back that way. I think that's possible. But incredible. Von Miller bringing that type of number to the Buffalo Bills, $8.8 million, which is huge. That's possibly AJ Epinesa coming back to the Buffalo Bills. That $8.8 million, more than $8.8 million that they ended up saving for Von Miller. So, yes, they did raise the floor on Von's ceiling. Raise the floor on Von's contract, but lowered the ceiling. Exactly. So, without getting too in depth, because I'm not Greg Thompson and he yells at me when I try to explain something I'm not good at. And there's two buckets, not likely to be earned and likely to be earned. And I've understood this, so now I can explain it. Likely to be earned are things that they've already done, right? So, let's say for Stefon Diggs, right? Stefon Diggs had 100 receptions this year. You're not going to put a incentive where it's 100 receptions, right? Because that's likely to be earned. You expect Stefon Diggs to get probably 100 receptions. What you could put for Stefon Diggs, if you wanted to give him an incentive to help, bring these numbers down, is you could say a not likely to be earned incentive of 200 receptions. They wouldn't do it, but you could do that because the likelihood that he's going to hit 200 receptions is probably very little. So a lot of the ones that they have, like one of the incentives is him getting, or the Bills getting to the AFC Championship and winning. That is it's not that it's not likely to be earned, but they haven't done it yet. So if they hit it, which the Bills are going to be perfectly happy to pay him off if that happens, but that's a number they can push to the next year. So yeah, there we are. I'm so confused. Some random spam is in the thing here. Needless to say, let's carry. If you ever watch my show, I can get very easily thrown amok. So those are the moves right there. There are a couple other moves that are going to be coming down the pipeline. One thing they did do, they did sign Mitch Trubisky as a backup quarterback. 3 years, that's not Trubisky. That's Taylor Rapp's deal. 3 years, $14.5 million. Not a bad deal for Taylor Rapp, who kind of came on last year at the end of the season. Very likely is going to be one of the starting safeties for the Buffalo Bills. They also brought back Mitch Trubisky to be the backup quarterback. So that's really good. Yes, Ralph Wilson Sr., they can get out of Von's deal next year. Not this year, but next year. So that being said, they have a couple moves that they can still make going into this coming year. The Buffalo Bills have a couple extensions. I could absolutely see the Buffalo Bills extending, or Brandon Beane extending Taron Johnson, a guy who is still playing at all pro level. I believe, if I'm correct, and Ian, you can check this, Taron Johnson is 27 years old. You can extend him out. It would be a great move, still playing at a very, very high level. Brandon Beane did the Thanos snap, 100%. All of a sudden, good. Deion Dawkins, another guy who is, I think, in line for an extension, had one of his best years as a pro, played the most snaps of his entire career. He was very, very good. Yes, Taron Johnson is 27 years old. The other one is Josh Allen. Josh Allen, here's the thing. Exactly. Josh Allen is technically the other one that they got to restructure. So I wouldn't be surprised. They could do one of two things. They can either restructure his deal or they can give him a contract extension. So I'm not going to explain that. That's not my forte, and I don't want to bumble over that stuff. But what I can tell you is either one of those moves, if they restructure Josh Allen's deal, it opens up like $20+ million. The extension, I believe, also can do the same thing. But what it can do is, or what's the reason behind it, is to bring Josh's number up to the rest of the quarterbacks. Because right now he's something like 7th or 8th in total value for NFL quarterbacks. They want him probably closer to number 3. So how about Jeremy Chin at the other safety position? So we could jump right in a little bit of free agency talk real quick. But before I do that, what I'd like to do, and I'm going to sidetrack. So I'm going to put down your comment. I'll come right back to this. Before we get too deep into this, with all you guys in here, I do want to tell you about the Cover 1 pass, but I'm not that good at telling you about it. So Aaron, Greg, I know you're back there. Do you mind telling these guys about it?
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
So there you guys have it. That is Greg and Aaron. You guys know who Greg and Aaron is. They were great last night. If you didn't catch their show, make sure you go to the Cover One YouTube page. Check all the highlights and all the other shows that everybody has, and check what everybody did from previous weeks. But Jeremy Chin, I know, somebody asked about Jeremy Chin. It would not surprise me if the Buffalo Bills ended up bringing Jeremy Chin. He was one of Brandon Beane's top 30 visits here in Buffalo alongside Kyle Duggar. On top of that, Jeremy Chin, I keep saying his name. Jeremy had Al Holcomb, who is one of the defensive staff, one of the coordinators here in Buffalo, or one of the position coaches in Buffalo. Al Holcomb was his defensive coordinator in Carolina. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jeremy Chin ends up here. A guy that could play both strong or free safety. And here's the thing, and I really like what was said earlier today. I think it was Sal Capaccio that said this. You don't really go after a big-name safety, right? Justin Simmons is out there, and I like Justin Simmons. I do. Super talented, most interceptions over the last how many years, all pros for the 5 years. But teams don't really spend big money on one safety anymore because it's really about having two complementary safeties. And I guess you could, in a realm of possibility, you could have two safeties and make it work. But you could also go ahead and get a Jeremy Chin and let's say like an Ashton Davis, two complementary guys that can play both ends of the spectrum. Both have a lot of rangy speed, both physicality. Ashton Davis is more the deep ball safety, and Jeremy Chin can play more in the box, but he can also play deep ball safety as well, kind of like Poyer and Hyde did over time with each other. That's what you want. You guys, you want safeties that have not only the intellect, but the versatility. You want them to have ranginess, a little bit longer, a little bit faster, a little bit better wingspan. So I like Jeremy Chin. I think he absolutely will. I think there's a very good chance that whether they sign him or not, that Jeremy Chin comes in for a free agent visit. I'd almost be stunned if he didn't. But there is great opportunities. There's so much stuff right now in terms of different guys that could fit and make things work. But if we're looking at different free agent prospects, and I'm going to bring up the free agent list so I'm not just rambling about nothingness, let's go ahead and take a look at the safety position real quick. And we'll move on and we'll talk about some other stuff. But because we have a mock draft tonight, and I know you guys want to get into the mock draft. I myself want to get into the mock draft, and I need your help in the mock draft. I'm dying on the hill if signing Savage. Darnell Savage would be a really nice signing. Darnell Savage, and thank you, Ian. This was done by the team, all of us here, not all of us, but the team at Cover One. I didn't do this. I'm not going to take credit. This is going to show you guys what we're looking at in terms of what positions we need. Obviously, you see, you got nose tackle, you got strong safety, one of the safety positions. This might actually be the one before we actually made the signing with Rapp, but that's okay. Rapp was obviously signed, so Rapp is one of them potentially, but you also have one of the wide receiver positions wide open, backup running back. Really, Stephon Diggs is backup right there. One of our nose tackles, so you need like a one tack, kind of what that Linval Joseph, Daquan Jones, and I could see Daquan coming back. Daquan won before his torn pec last year, was playing, all pro, top of the line, the best that I've seen him play this year. I think that's the type of thing that you could see Daquan back. It just has to be the number, has to be right. The other one, there's two that I wouldn't be surprised. And I know people are not going to be happy about it, and people in this chat are probably going to be pretty upset about it, but don't be surprised if maybe they bring back Gabe Davis. If they can find a number, now that they've got a little bit more cap space, I know they'd like to have Gabe back. I know Gabe would love to come back. Don't be surprised and upset if it happens. My only caveat, and I love Gabe Davis. I like what Gabe did. I just hope that doesn't bring Gabe back. I don't want that. Bishop, please don't leave. Please don't turn off. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at me about Gabe Davis. I'm just translating the news. I don't want them to deter. I don't want Gabe Davis to deter from the mission at hand. And you saw, I'm all about, and Ian, if you want to try to find a train horn and we can play the train horn every time I say wide receiver train tonight, go ahead. I'm on the wide receiver train. And we're going to do a mock draft very quickly in just a few minutes. I want a wide receiver, period. Whether it's free agency, I talked about, if you follow me on Twitter, by the way, at the Thomas DeLoss, please go ahead, give me a follow. I'd love to chat with more of you guys. I've talked about the idea of trading for Cortland Sutton for the Denver Broncos, and you see they're unloading right now. In Ben Albright, one of their beat reporters, has literally said they're going to unload. I think Cortland Sutton would be a fantastic addition to the Buffalo Bills. A little bit older, but a cheaper version, better hands than Gabe Davis, would be able to do those 9 routes, just setting them on flyers. I think it'd be great. What do I think about Knox? Man, I love Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox is a very tough position for Buffalo Bills. Yeah, I'll bring the pitchforks. It's tough with Dawson because I have a soft spot for Dawson Knox because 2 years ago he lost his brother in August right before the start of the season. I don't know how, I lost my grandfather a year ago in January, and it's making sense of this for you guys. I had a really hard time with that. I can't even fathom losing my brother, specifically my younger brother. I don't know how I would be able to continue and do a job where I have to perform at the highest of level amongst everybody at their position in the NFL. I don't know. I get you're getting paid, but still, human values. Like, as a human, I don't know. Like, I don't know how I'd perform like that. And then last year he was injured. So I love Dawson. Does he make some really bad drops? Yes, but he makes some unbelievable catches too. And he's a huge proponent in this offense, makes big time plays. He has made some huge touchdown grabs in Buffalo Bills history. I love Dawson Knox. Can he lower his cap number? If he could lower, here's the thing. I think the Buffalo Bills I think Bills fans, all of you in the comments, all you guys in the chat, I think everybody would absolutely love having Dawson Knox if that number was lower. If he could lower that cap hit, Bills fans would be fine. I think it's just that cap number hasn't matched the production because of variables that are just uncontrollable. So I think that's tough. I love Dawson Knox. Would I love to have Dawson Knox stick around? Absolutely. Fully Fotakasi, it's possible that he signs here. I haven't heard anything unless you know something that I don't know and they have already signed him while I've been live, which is possible. Who knows? News happens quickly around Buffalo Bills. Wide receiver train. Do you got the noise? Nice. I love it. So we got a wide receiver train horn. So Ian's now going to play a wide receiver train horn every time I say that. Every time. So, you know, I love Dawson Knox. I think Dawson Knox would be fantastic here. Hollywood Brown, another great name. In fact, I talked about him a few weeks back about adding Hollywood Brown to the Buffalo Bills, having a guy like him with his speed. I think, you know, coming from when he was in Baltimore, then went to Arizona, I think he showed a lot of flashes, really, really high quality speed, like Marquise Goodwin type speed. Ironically enough, they have the same name. I think both of them, what they provide, I think Marquise Brown would be great for the Buffalo Bills. I'm a little concerned about the drops, not super concerned. He fills a void that I think that just Rapp said he signs. Rapp is in Taylor Rapp or Rapp is in Ian Rappaport? Somebody's going to have to check on that for me. So back to Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown would be fantastic. I think, you know, I talked about it. I don't think the number would be too bad in terms of what he'd make. And to be honest, again, these moves that happened yesterday, they opened up a plethora of extra cap space for the Buffalo Bills to be able to make some of these moves that may have seemed like they were just outside of the realm of what was kind of in their wheelhouse. A guy like a Hollywood Brown, maybe a guy like Calvin Ridley. So Ian Rappaport. If somebody wants to check and see Ian Rappaport about Foley Futakasi, if he's signing or anything of that nature, if somebody could provide me that information, or Ian, if that'd be great. I know there was a visit today. It'd be interesting to see if he in fact does sign. But again, back to Calvin Ridley, Hollywood Brown, a lot of these, maybe these guys that are a little bit higher in terms of the cost. And that could be the same thing for safety, right? We were talking about safety. I kind of got sidetracked. I apologize. Maybe you could spend a little bit more money on one of these guys. You know, Quandre Diggs, a guy that was just released. Obviously, you got, you know, Justin Simmons. I don't think they would go after Budda Baker or who's the other big one? Why am I blanking? Whatever. Antoine Winfield Jr. I should know that. Buffalo Bills legend son. Maybe you spend a little bit of money. I'd be surprised again, but maybe this opens up a little bit more where they have the flexibility to go after a guy that they were a little bit maybe weary on, that they felt that they weren't going to be able to kind of reach to. So I think that's definitely something. No confirmation. Okay, good. So no confirmation yet on Foley Futakasi, but you know, potentially that he does sign. It makes a lot of sense from what they were saying today. Foley is a locker room guy, big time leader, not a penetrator, but a run stuffer, which is great. That's kind of what you need with that one tech. I think that'd be a really good addition. But in terms of getting a guy that could come in, Noah Brown, another great opportunity. Noah, you know, got buried in Dallas behind all those receivers, really kind of flourished this year. I think he'd be a nice addition. He would fill that Gabe Davis role, which is great. We'll see. I think there's a bunch of different guys that they could bring in. I can tell you one thing for certain. They are going to look for speed. However that looks, whatever the Buffalo Bills are going to do, they're going to look for speed and find a way to add that explosive, that rack, run after catch, the yards after the catch. They want as much opportunity to provide Josh with as much as they can. That's huge. Huge. Yeah, I agree, Roy. I wouldn't. Roy's saying Hollywood Brown 5 years in and has 1 year of production at barely 1,000 yards. So here's the thing about that. By the way, cheers. With Hollywood Brown, I think there's a caveat to that, right? Because a lot of that is inherently based on the quarterback play, and I think it's situational, right? Like a guy like Hollywood Brown was never going to be your number one receiver. He's an ancillary speed option, and that's great. And I think in the right scenario for Buffalo, you don't have to have him at 1,000 yards, right? If Hollywood Brown gets 680 or 700 yards and 8 touchdowns, that's great. Because you're also going to have, so a couple of years ago when Gabe Davis was getting those numbers, but you had nobody else, that was a big issue. But now when you've got Dalton Kincaid, who's probably going to have a massive year this year, Khalil Shakir, who's probably going to have a massive year this year, and then Stephon Diggs, who I wholeheartedly believe is not falling off, will probably have a better year than he had last year. I think that Hollywood Brown or anybody that you bring in as that ancillary X option or that Y option is going to just need to do enough to provide a little bit more of that oomph to the Bills offense. So I think it'd be interesting to see what they do in terms of who they bring in. Noah Brown, Josh Reynolds, great options. Good call out. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the wide receivers real quick. So I keep saying, I apologize. That's like my worst thing I got to work on. Jeremy Chin at safety. Marcus, I agree wholeheartedly. I think having Jeremy Chin, like I mentioned a little bit ago, I think that is probably a fairly good guess in terms of probably a free agent visit at the very minimum. Probably, I would guess. Should Taylor Rapp be on that spreadsheet? Yeah, I mentioned that. I apologize. I think this is the one that's not updated without it. I'll have to next week have it on there. Did Brown have beef with someone on your roster? I haven't heard of that. If somebody wants to find that, I don't know. Maybe. I think everybody has beef about something on one of these rosters. But there's a couple guys in here, right? So let's kind of go through some of these wide receivers, and then we're going to get into the NFL, into the mock draft, because I know you guys, I want to get into it. You guys want to get into it. Let's, we'll kind of break that down. A couple guys that we have in terms of options. You've got Curtis Samuel, and I mentioned Curtis Samuel, a guy that's best years were under Joe Brady. Another guy, Joe Brady, I would not be, and I know Carolina connection, people hate hearing about it, but when it comes to continuity, when it comes to familiarity, the Bills love it. I wouldn't be surprised if Curtis Samuel comes in a free agent visit, or if they already have some, if they've talked to his representation and Curtis likes the idea because he hasn't played with a good quarterback yet. If he likes the idea of playing with Josh Allen, now, he's not the only quarterback he could play with, but Joe Brady was Curtis Samuel's best year in the NFL. So that's an option right there. Tyler Boyd, we're very familiar with Tyler Boyd, guy who helped break the playoff drought. He'd be a really nice addition. Like we did mention, Marquise Brown, Calvin Ridley, a guy a little bit older, probably doesn't have as much traction per se, a little bit more tread on the tires because he was sitting out for a couple of years. Even though he's 29, you might get a few more years than expected. He's still got a ton of burst, really, really crafty route runner, very, very good hands, and tons of speed. Then you go a little bit further down the pipeline, right? You go with a Laviska Shenault, a guy out of Colorado who had all the talent in the world, didn't really blossom the way people thought. Maybe you give a guy like him an opportunity who maybe in the right scenario could finally unlock. Bring back a guy like Ray McLeod, who played him, was drafted in Buffalo, played in San Francisco. Not going to cost a lot. Maybe gives you that vertical threat and that kick returner right there. You could go ahead and try to see if maybe, just maybe, I doubt it'll happen, but maybe New Orleans will not go ahead and offer Rashid Shaheed, a speeder or a speed runner, guy that just could break open and take the top off of any defense, no matter who you're playing. So that would be a really, really nice one. But there's a ton of options, guys. There's a ton of different options in terms of, DJ Chark or Paris Campbell, who's more of a slot receiver. If they really wanted to, Mecole Hardman, a guy that we've seen, could flourish. He's got tons and tons of speed. If you want to go the more veteran route, Odell Beckham Jr. or Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I know people are not going to love those names, but those are options. Maybe you get them for a little bit cheaper. So there are possibilities in terms of who you bring in. Wow, someone cowardly attacked me mid-season at the end of this program. Wait. I did? Wait. Cowardly attacked me mid-season at the end of his program with no possibility to respond, telling me how Trey White would definitely be back next year. I mean, in fairness, I don't think anybody actually believed that Trey White would actually be released. I apologize if you felt like I was going after you. I like you, Jessica. So if you did feel like I went after you, genuinely, I apologize. That's definitely not my intention. But needless to say, I think Tre'Davious White being back is probably, obviously, most people would have thought, based on the relationship with him and Sean McDermott and the defense, I think it would have made a lot of sense for him to come back. But, is what it is. We move on. Needless to say, I think when it comes down to this, wait, I'm so confused. I'm just going to carry on. I'm a little bit lost into whatever. Roy's coming at my throat. I am bringing all the heat tonight. I apologize very much so. I am giving you all the options, understandably so. We got KJ Hamler at the end of the season. We signed him to a futures contract. Thank you. You guys got to understand, when you say stuff to me, I get sidetracked and I am like a squirrel. So I lose track of everything that's going on around me. We signed KJ Hamler to a futures contract. KJ Hamler, a very, very talented receiver when he came out, a second-round draft pick who I think, he had some type of medical condition. And Ian, if you want to bring that up to me, maybe you could figure out. I don't remember offhand what it was. Squirrel. KJ Hamler, super talented. Couple drop issues in terms of not, maybe kind of being as resilient, but all the talent in the world, highly touted coming out of the draft. Didn't have a lot of good quarterback play. So, it is, I think, one of those type of situations. But needless to say, I think it's one of those that, he's got a lot of potential, and maybe the Bills can unlock it. I think that's going to be a good opportunity. If anybody else has, by the way, any pericarditis. Oh, there we go. I love having my brother as my, which, by the way, my brother is my producer. I don't really talk about him a whole lot. I just want to tell you guys, best producer in the game. He does a lot for this, but he has pericarditis, which is inflammation around the heart. So he's had some issues being able to stay on the field. So hopefully we can get through that. But let's go ahead and do this. Guys, let's get right into this mock draft. I know you guys really want to talk about this stuff. And if you guys have any other Hamlin wasn't released, it's possible. Maybe it's more of, his cap number, and Ian, if you want to tell me what that is. Hamlin's cap number, I don't think, is prohibitive. So I wouldn't be surprised if they keep him, because they just don't have the depth on safety. And Hamlin has the ability to come in a pinch. We've seen it, which is why he, what happened on the field, and he came in last year. I think keeping him is more of a benefit. I think losing him, especially with the cost, like the sunk cost or whatever it is not going to be worth it. He's a $1 million cap hit. His dead cap is $40,000. It's negligible. So I think having him is worth more than not having him, per se. Side note. So obviously you guys can see on the screen, I've got the NFL mock draft database. I'm probably going to make Jim Wickens really mad because I haven't used his thing yet. But every time I use it on my computer, some issue happens. If you guys have a better mock draft website, you guys are always going to roast me. I get roasted all the time. It's fine. I'm here for it. And I appreciate you guys being here for that. If you guys have any other ideas, Van Jefferson's an interesting one. I'm not a huge fan. Joe DeRosa likes Van Jefferson. I don't know how I feel about Van. Van has had some drop issues. He's never really lived up his potential. When Cooper Kupp went injured, had issues there. I don't know. Here's the thing. My sentiment about Van Jefferson is going to be the sentiment about a lot of guys that haven't proved it yet, because we did this last year. My 2005 computer. Sir, if you'd like to see my computer, my brother and I built this computer. It is super fast. It's not my fault. Van Jefferson's very similar to like Deontay Hardy or Trent Sherfield. I worry about bringing in receivers who haven't lived up to their potential, or people that were like, oh, well, maybe Josh can get more out of them. I don't want to live that way. I want to live in let's get a guy that's bona fide, that's proven himself, because I want more, right? Like I for some reason, and I don't understand, and I think you guys should always feel the same way about this. Maybe it's just me, but whatever. Why do we not want more for Josh? I want everything. I've said a million times, I want more. I want everything. I want everything you can get for Josh. I don't care if it's an embarrassment of riches. I want more. And let's do that. Let's get everything we can to just get as much for Brandon Beane or for Josh Allen. My Life Real 716, trade out of the first, high second. Here's the thing with this. I don't want to lose the 5th-year option. Look at what happened when it came down to T. Higgins. T. Higgins drafted the first pick out of the 2nd round. Now the Cincinnati Bengals don't get to do that 5th-year option, which they could follow it up by, doing the franchise tag. They have to do the franchise tag as the 5th-year option. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do that. I want a 5th-year option, and especially in today's NFL, where wide receivers' contracts, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, these guys' numbers are going to skyrocket. They're making north of $30 million, probably soon north of $35 million. I want to give us as much cost control as humanly possible, where we don't have to worry about that for at least 5 years, maybe even 6 years with that franchise tag, which you can then help to negotiate into a longer-term deal. So I like the idea of adding more picks. So we already have 11. So how many more do you really need? But I don't want to do it out of the first. Do I think Brandon Beane trades up into the first round? I don't know, but I will say this. I think there's more of a likelihood this year than I've ever felt. Now, Brandon Beane's always traded. He's very, very active. We know this. He did it for Kincaid. He did it for Elam. He did it for Josh. He did it for Tremaine. He's traded all over the board. He traded back twice for James Cook. Yeah. So I think there's a likelihood, and I think what it comes down to is, one, free agency happens next week, which I always thought free agency should happen after the draft, but I think Brandon Beane's going to go in, get what he needs to get filled, like defensive line, like safety, so that he can go into the draft and say, I want best position available and draft or attack wide receiver. In that moment, and if you guys follow me on Twitter, again, at the Thomas DeLoss, please go ahead and hit me with a follow. I appreciate it. I'd love to interact with you guys. You'll see me on Twitter. I'm on all the time. I am a huge Brian Thomas Jr. fan. I am a huge Troy Franklin fan. Love Lad McConkey. There's some great names. If the names start going off the board, it would not surprise me if Beane goes up and gets somebody. I think there is a ton. Oh, look, Chief Kingdom. Thanks. I'm glad you are here to watch us. Welcome aboard. Every fan base is welcome. Cheers. I like the idea of trading up. My thing is, like I said a second ago, get the talent you want. Don't be afraid of it. Just go get them. Because at the end of the day, in 5 years, no one's going to care how you got the best receiver in the class. And I've said, whatever, I think it's crazy, and I don't really care. If you want to go up and trade for Malik Neighbors, do it. Do it. I'm going to say, holy shit, I'm going to freak out, like most Bills fans probably will. But if you want to go, if Brandon Beane wants to go up It wants to trade a lot of assets. You'd probably be like 5 total assets between this year and next year. If they want to go up and get Malik Neighbors, I ain't going to complain, friends. I ain't going to complain. Go get your favorite receiver. My thing is, when it comes down to it, if you feel that your scouting department, which Brandon Bean's hit rate is very, very good. If you believe your scouting department, your coaches, the rest of your assistant GMs believe that whether it's Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Brian Thomas Jr., Troy Franklin, Adonai Mitchell, whoever, if you believe that guy is going to be the franchise-changing, game-changing player, go get him. Go get him. I am not going to balk at the idea of it, because the reality is I want to give Josh Allen everything he can to be successful. And the other thing is we need to start planning for life after Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is now the second oldest player on the Buffalo Bills at 30 years old. You got to start planning. Period. I hope he trades back and gets both of Washington's second-round picks. Again, I don't love the idea, but if it meant we had 3 second-round picks, I could probably get with it. I'd probably get with it. Daniel, great comment. Recent history shown Bean will use a 4th-round pick to trade up enough to get at list. Get one of the last first-round graded players as a position of need. Yep. I could see it. Xavier Legette. I like Xavier Legette. It's like Keon Coleman, right? A guy that's physical, great contested catch receiver, good speed, great speed. Big question is, he was a quarterback. Quarterback transitioned to a wide receiver. How does that look? A lot of people are very high in Xavier Legette. I like him. I think he's got a lot of talent. He flashes. I just wonder, does that translate and how that looks? He's not as fast. He's very fast. Let's be fair. He does have a shoe drops, but he is very fast. He's not as fast, but he is very fast. I wouldn't mind getting Xavier Worthy. I think Xavier Worthy that's the one that's going to be intriguing to where Xavier Worthy and that speed go. Because obviously Xavier Worthy, because of what he did at the combine with that 4.21, I think that could catapult him way up the board. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, general managers will talk themselves into anything, and speed is the worst of them. They will convince themselves that they need to do it. But let's go ahead. Guys, let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is we are going to just start the draft, right? I'm going to let it play out. I'm going to just let it go all the way to 28 the first time around. And we're going to go pretty quick through this. I'm just going to pick. We'll see how everything looks. And if you see something you'll like, let me know quickly. But we're going to go ahead and see how everything looks, how this shakes out, and then we'll make our decision as to what we think is the best. But the reality is, I think with a lot of this stuff, it's tough because at the end of the day, and I'm going to pull this off, we have 5 trade offers. I don't really want to trade right now, so we're going to skip trading. And let's see what we got. Okay. So, on the board, we've got, okay. Brock Bowers is not going to be there. Well, I mean, I guess he could. A lot of these mock draft simulators are a little goofy. A lot of them have guys falling that they really shouldn't fall, but they do. So, don't be surprised if we see some guys in weird positions. Brock Bowers, I guess that of all the guys that could, I'd be surprised if he falls. Maybe in the world, maybe a tight end does. I don't think anybody thought that the tight ends would fall last year, but they did. But so right now we've got Keon Coleman, Darius Robinson, a guy that is, like Anthony Prohaska said, is an archetype fit. He could play 5-tech. He, by Jim Nagy's spectrum, says that he's just like J.J. Watt. You could play him inside. You could play him outside. Didn't have a great 40 time. I think it was 4.95. But the type of guy that you can move all over and would really fit the Bills' needs. Then you got Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, Troy Franklin. So what I want to do is I'm going to just look at wide receiver. And I'm just going to look at these top 4. Because I think Xavier Legette, to be honest with you, is more of a second rounder. No disrespect. I'm not a huge fan. But you got Keon Coleman, who I'm a little weary on Keon Coleman. If you look, and they were talking about this the other day, Keon Coleman is a contested catch receiver. And when it comes down to it, with contested catches, when you are primarily contested catch receiver out of college, they, generally speaking, find less success in the NFL. So I'm going to say, if I wanted to bank, I would say Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, or Troy Franklin. And so let's talk about the 3 of these, right? Xavier Worthy, unrelenting speed, a guy that could just break it off, take the top off any defense. Lad McConkey, who is kind of a jack of all trades. You can play him inside, you can play him outside. Pretty darn good speed, really nice hands, great route running, very, very nuanced, really good release packages. And then Troy Franklin, a little bit more raw, good speed, not as tall as speculated. It's tough. I think if I'm going to probably say it's between Xavier Worthy and Lad McConkey. I like Lad McConkey, but man, Xavier Worthy's speed. Man, Joe DeRosa is going to be so mad at me if I go. I think, man, I don't know how you turned out. I think you got to go with Lad McConkey. I like Xavier Worthy, but Brandon Beane said himself when it comes to speed, if all you've got is speed, and that's not all he has, but all you've got is speed, and once that goes away, that's, your ace in the hole is gone. So we're going to go ahead. Again, this mock draft, I'm not going to do trades. We're just going to strictly pick where we're at. So I'm going to go back to all and see what we got going on here. We got Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia. You got Rook Okoro, defensive line out of Clemson. Michael Hall Jr., defensive line out of Ohio State. Kellen Bullock, out of safety out of USC. Adisa Isaac, edge out of Penn State. So really, really good names right there. I think it's probably, if I had to guess, you're probably looking at Javon Bullard, Rook Okoro, or Michael Hall. I didn't see Tavondre Sweat. Let me see. I didn't see him. No, I don't see Tavondre Sweat anywhere in here. Yeah, no, I don't see him. So I would say either Michael Hall, Rook Okoro, or Javon Bullard. I think, to be honest with you, I really believe they're probably going to go safety in free agency. So I think Rook Okoro is a really nice pick here. Defend your pick. I think it's so strange. I think it's a good move. In terms of just what Rook brings, he's a bit of a bigger guy. He's gonna be a one tech for you. It provides some penetration. Definitely a great run stuffer. I think that Clemson defensive line is a good stout group, and I think adding Rook to this group would be really, really good. So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to get to our 3rd round pick. We're going to fly through this because it's already an hour in. You guys are awesome, man. You guys are killing tonight. So let's see how we're doing. We are just about at our 3rd pick. Here we are. And ladies and gentlemen, let's see what we got going on here. We've got Kellen Bullock again, still there, surprisingly. Malachi Corley, Trey Benson, Jonah Ellis, Kalen Carson. I'd be very surprised if we go corner this early. Let's see what wide receivers are here. Maybe double dip in the wide receiver bank? Nah. Maybe Malachi Corley. I really like Malachi Corley. But I also really like Javon Baker. You can maybe get him at your next pick coming back around. Let's see what safeties we have available right now. You got Callan, Cole Bishop. I think Cole Bishop would be a great one. Out of Utah, a guy that, really fits the mold, can play both strong and free safety. A guy that they did a lot of scouting for this year. Wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 30 visit. I think that fits a nice role, and then you could develop him right there. I think, Cole ran a really, really nice 40. I think it was, I want to say 4.48 or something to that degree. I think that'd be a really, really good pick. I think we're going to go ahead and I think we're going to lock that in. Cole Bishop. So let's go ahead. We're going to move on, guys. We are moving on to our 4th round pick. And now, in regards to what the Bills are doing right now, and obviously with NFL free agency coming up, and obviously I keep saying obviously, next Wednesday is free agency. Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn will have their normal show. So obviously they will recap or talk about a lot of stuff. And free agency opens up, I believe it's at 4 o'clock. Maybe it's noon. It's either noon or 4 o'clock. Ian, you could tell me which one. Let's get right back into this, guys. We are at the 4th pick. We are at pick 129. Let's see what wide receivers we got available. Unfortunately, we did lose Javon Baker, but we do have a couple nice options that are a little bit later. I think we'd probably wait. Maybe we can get back to Taj Washington, USC receiver. Shakir replacement. We drafted Shakir's replacement. We still need to get Gabe's replacement. Gabe's replacement's probably Ladd McConkey. That's your number 2 right there is Ladd McConkey, unless they go ahead and do something. 4 p.m. on the 13th is when free agency opens. Thank you. Unless they get somebody in free agency, and Ladd is your number 4. So let's go ahead and take a look who we got available to us at this spot. Man, I'll tell you, I love me some Audric Estime. I don't know if you guys know a lot about Audric Estime. The other one, Dwayne Carter. You got that. You got Tommy Eichenberg. And Tommy Eichenberg would be, if you ever wanted to eventually down the road move Terrell Bernard to your will linebacker, Tommy Eichenberg would be the perfect prototypical downhill thumper of a middle linebacker. He is a stud from Ohio State. I think it'd be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. New coach also was the Georgia safeties before Miami. Is there a safety available right now in here? Where are we? We do not have one. Maybe I'm a little bit behind. You got to be replaced boundary, but what does it? McConkey is graded. I'm so confused. Spin. Okay, so couple different options here. You got Tyler Davis. I don't know if they'll go defensive line again early. I don't know. Audric Estime is a great running back. Thumper. He's a cover 1 fan favorite, to be honest with you. I could see them going that direction. Marshawn Lloyd, who's the number 1 running back in this draft, is available. Dwayne Carter, who is Bruce Nolan's absolute favorite. I could see us going there. I love the Tommy Eichenberg idea. I think Tommy would be, man, if you could sash him for a couple of years and then just unleash, just the fury that he is, I think that'd be a lot of fun. How do I feel about Jeremy Chin? I mentioned this a couple times. That's okay. I love Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin has had a couple years of injuries, but prior to that, Jeremy Chin was the defensive rookie of the year. He was, a guy that was going to set the safety market when he became a free agent. He is fantastic. He is a guy that I think could really, really, really just, I think he could do a lot of things right, and it'd be really intriguing to see what the Bills could do with him, with good coaching, with, just the ability to, get him in a good position. So Austin Booker. Let's take a look at Austin Booker, defensive end, 6'4", 240 pounds, out of Kansas. Based on what I'm reading, I think that, I think Austin Booker would be a really nice add-on. We need some defensive ends. It's going to be intriguing what they do in free agency. Again, the tough part about this is doing these mock drafts before free agency leaves a little bit of wiggle room as to what the perception of what they could do. Do they bring AJ Epinesa back? Do they bring Leonard Floyd back? Do they go ahead and try to sign somebody, a Jadeveon Clowney? a Chase Young? Do they try to get a lower end defensive end, right? And I just had the free agent list up. I could tell you real quick when it comes to edge who they have available. You could go ahead and get, Yannick Ngakwe's out there, Marcus Davenport. There's tons of names. Danico Autry, who's more of an inside-outside guy. There's a ton of different options in terms of defensive ends. I like the idea of bringing defensive end in the draft. You got somebody that you can really kind of groom over time. If you guys think Austin Booker's a good idea, I'm 100% on board there. I think it's a decent idea. I'm not 100% sure on Austin Booker. I think if you're going to go edge, you go earlier, but nobody really fell into that position. I kind of like the idea of taking Audric Estime here. I think he is a weapon, or Marshawn Lloyd is a weapon. Honestly, to be honest with you, if Marshawn Lloyd is here in the 4th, I feel like you have to take him, which is crazy. So, I think there's that option. Tyler Davis, defensive tackle, another one that's a great option. I think it's tough. I'd be remiss if I did not go Dwayne Carter here, because I think he is the best in terms of potential and what he did at Duke. So let's go ahead and do that. And we are going through as quickly as possible because we already at 1 hour and 6 minutes. We're going to go ahead and follow it up by go ahead and drafting Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker, Ohio State. I think he's going to not only help solidify that back end, it gives you depth under injury like we saw this past year in the playoffs. And just gives you a little bit more flexibility down the road. A guy that, just maybe be able to step in when the time comes. And I think that's a good opportunity. Running back, let's go ahead and do it right here. Let's go ahead and get Ray Davis, a guy that had a very, very nice combine. I think he'd be a nice fit for the Buffalo Bills. Another pick real quick. And we're going to take Dadrian Taylor Demerson. I think this is a little late for him. I think he goes a little bit earlier, to be honest with you. Another dude that had a very, very good combine. Safety out of Texas Tech. Rangy, good speed. Very good in coverage. Guys, side note, before we get too much further and deeper into this and, carrying on with this draft, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me. I do very much appreciate it. And let people know if you like this show, you liked what you saw, go ahead and share this. Send the share button after this is done and let people know about the show and that you liked it. I really do very much appreciate it. So we do have 2 safeties, by the way, Cole Bishop, Darian Taylor Demerson. I think those are 2 great ones. I don't think we need to do another one after this, even though Katan Oladapo from Oregon State is there. I think he's a really good one. Then beyond that, we could go ahead and take a couple different positions here. Nehemiah Pritchett, nice corner out of Missouri. I think, good opportunity to get some depth at cornerback, especially now that Tre'Davious White is gone. I think it's tough. A lot of these times you're going to be backfilling the roster, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult to see who's a good fit at this point because you just don't know what the Bills are going to do. We do know that we have holes at corner. So let's go ahead and take Nehemiah. I think it fits a nice need right there. Good rangy corner. Let's see where we're at right now. Where we're at right now. We have 3 picks left. We're at 202. Obviously, we have a couple needs remaining, but we've gone Lad McConkey, Rook Quoro, Cole Bishop, Dwayne Carter, Tommy Eichenberg, Ray Davis, Dadrian Taylor Demerson, Nehemiah Pritchett. Dude's out of this world. Cheers. By the way, you guys are awesome. You guys are killing it tonight. I really appreciate you guys hanging out, really kicking the chat and keeping this rolling. Let's go ahead and AJ, here's the thing. We were actually on WGR, was listening today, and Jeremy White mentioned this, and I didn't really spend a lot of time on AJ Dillon just because I didn't really care about the secondary running back market. But AJ Dillon is one of the worst ranked running backs I want you to go look at his stats and his rankings. He's terrible, especially within the 10-yard line. We do not want AJ Dillon. I promise you. Let's see what we got for interior offensive line. What's available? Got Isaiah Adams, Andrew Rame. There's some options here. It's tough because I don't know. You could go early or you could go later in terms of how they're going to address the offensive line. I know, obviously, like we've talked about, Connor McGovern's going to be your center going into this year. David Edwards is going to be your left guard. It'll be intriguing to see what they do to backfill that with the center. I could see them doing something on the free agent market. And in terms of free agents for centers, I'm going to take a look real quick for you guys. Free agent centers, there's some decent options. Connor Williams from Miami is available. He is a free agent at 26 years old. I think that'd be a nice little ad, a nice younger option. You could go ahead. There's Nick Allegretti from Kansas City. He is a guard. He's also played center before. Obviously, we already have Connor McGovern from the Jets is a free agent. We could have two Connor McGoverns next to each other, all for the vibes. There's some options. John Feliciano, if you want to dabble into a guy that is a not fan favorite, you could go that. But I think there's options. Isaiah Adams, I believe, if I remember correctly, and let me take a look real quick. I believe Isaiah Adams played some at Illinois. Let's see. I believe, if I remember correctly. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. I'm doing this all on the fly, so bear with me, my folks. I appreciate you all. I believe he has, but I'm doing this very much on the fly, so I apologize. He had played right tackle. He has played guard. I don't want to say for certain, but I think it's a good idea to get a guy that has some rangy flexibility. So let's go ahead and take Isaiah Adams, guy that can kind of bounce all over the place, fills a couple different necessities right there. And having, obviously you've got Ryan Vandermark, you've got Alec Anderson. They've got some great depth in terms of the roster right now. And Ian, if you want to go ahead and put up that let's see, right here, you can see with the offensive line, you got Alec Anderson, Kevin Jarvis, Tommy Doyle. We'll see if he comes back. Ryan Vandermark, Richard Gourage, a bunch of guys right there. We have some depth, so we're a good spot. But bunch of options. The other one, I think potentially, obviously we need the edge. I think Cedric Johnson might not be a bad opportunity. I want to see what his 40 time is. Let's see. The problem is a lot of these, there's so many guys in the draft, and you can look as many as you want, but to be honest with you, there's so many different names, and it's hard to remember every single person and what they've done. His 40 is a 4.63 out of Mississippi. Not bad speed by any means necessary. So let's go ahead. I think, at this point in the draft, you're drafting for traits. You're not drafting for a guy that's going to step in, though if they do, congratulations, great. And now at this point, I think getting, whether it's a cornerback or an offensive tackle, defensive lineman, somebody that you're going to say, hey, let's get the guy that's got the most upside, the most just range. I think a guy like Jalix Hunt, guy that we met at the combine, tons of speed. I think Jalix Hunt ran one of the best times at the 40. Let me see if I remember correctly. Jalix Hunt did very, very well. Let's see. 4.64, 40-yard dash. So definitely not a bad one. Go back-to-back edge to fill out the end of the draft. So, guys, right there, you've got Ladd McConkey out of Georgia with the first pick. Ruka Okoro, defensive line out of Clemson, number 60. Cole Bishop, safety out of Utah with the 99th pick. Dwayne Carter, defensive lineman out of Duke at 129. Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker, Ohio State, 143. That's the pick we got from Chicago. Ray Davis, running back, Kentucky, pick 159. Dadrian Taylor Demerson, Safety out of Texas Tech, pick 162, Nehemiah Pritchett. Cornerback, Auburn, pick 198. Pick 202, Isaiah Adams. Interior offensive lineman from Illinois. And then back-to-back 206 and 246. Edge defensive ends, Cedric Johnson out of Mississippi. Jalix Hunt out of Houston Baptist. So there is that. I agree too. I think Jalix is probably going to rise quite a bit. Man, I think that there is just a lot of guys. They're going to be jockeying for position. Obviously, we saw the combine. I think just in terms of, pro days, what's going to happen with free agency, guys are going to jump up and down. And a lot of it's going to be based on the first round, how guys are going to move, whether they're going to plummet, they're going to rise a little bit. But needless to say, I think that there is opportunity, to say the least, in kind of, I don't want to say getting more, but there's a lot of different guys that are going to be moving all over. And I think you're going to see guys kind of rise and fall. Needless to say, guys, we covered a lot tonight. I do very much appreciate all of you. I love you. It has been a lot of fun. We've covered a lot, and we're going to be doing more next week. It's going to be the day after free agency, so we are going to wrap at least the first day or first 2 days of free agency as to what happened, what we saw, how things looked, how things worked out. Again, I appreciate all of you. If you can go ahead and hit a thumbs up on this video, it means the world to me. Go ahead and share it. Tell somebody and know that you watched Buffalo Late Night on Cover One, and they should probably tune in, share that video with them. But again, you've been watching Buffalo Late Night on the Cover One Sports Network. We will see you guys next week. Let's see what else Brandon Bean has up his sleeve, and let's see what the Bills will do to fill out this 53-man roster. Let's go, Buffalo.